welcome to Sound Bites. I'm Christine Tao, the co-founder and CEO.
And I'm Lori Mazan, the other co-founder. It's like the other woman, I don't know.
You're so much more than that, Lori. You're so much more than that.
So funny.
So look, Lori, I think I wanted to take it all the way back. Okay. So, Sounding Board, what do? We are a company that delivers coaching. And sometimes we live and breathe this, and I realize I think everybody else knows the difference. But I thought it would actually be interesting for us to talk about what the difference is between coaching and training. And the reason why I think it's important to talk about now is, a lot of the news out there is talking about how there's been an explosion in learning, right? People are signing up to develop their skills, to learn new skills at a record pace than ever before. And a lot of that, I think, sits in a training or a learning context, right, where there's content being delivered to them. And I think that it's important to actually think about what's the goals and what's the right way to quote unquote learn. And so talking about this idea of training versus coaching, I thought was really relevant, especially for these times.
Yeah, I think you actually already named it, like training or even online learning, reading a book. It's all content being delivered. So yes, your brain is getting filled with information, which is great. But then my question always is, okay, now what changed as a result of gaining that information? Are you thinking differently about your work, your job, your impact? Are you trying new behaviors and actions as a result of that thinking? And are those behaviors and actions giving you the actual results that you're looking for? So I really think of coaching as a way to take learning that's happened all different ways, on the job, online, whatever, and translate that into new mindsets, elevated thinking that then generate whole new bands of action and therefore impact.
So I'm left with this idea of it's almost how you move forward learning. Learning is almost just the first step. Is that right?
That's how I think about it. Yeah. I mean, think of literally how many books you've read where maybe you even just remember the title of the book, but you don't actually remember much of the content. Or maybe you only remember one idea from that book that you can talk about, but you actually have never implemented yourself. So there's like 2, 3, 4 more steps after gaining the information or the content to actually have that content change you, make a difference for you, make a difference in your organization, in your company.
And tell me a little bit about, it's easy for me to understand how that happens in a one-on-one context, right? You were my coach. And so I got to experience this firsthand that, I was moving forward my insights and my actions as a result of the things that I was learning. But, one of the things that a lot of companies do to try and train or develop their teams is to actually deliver training in, whether it's a small group or a classroom or something like that. Tell me a little bit about, what's effective about that? What are some things that might not capture that are actually really important as you think about developing a group of leaders or a group of managers?
Yeah, I think training is still super useful as a content delivery methodology. If it's more interactive, it can help people to kind of take the first step in increasing their awareness or changing their mindset. But I find still a coaching approach is invaluable in terms of actually generating application or change. So like, for example, group coaching, that's not really teaching any new content. It's helping peers and organizations take the content they already have. Like, we have no lack of content. It's everywhere now. But how do you sort that content? How do you take that content and figure out, even with your peers, what works in our environment? What fits for our culture? If I try this, is this going to blow up the whole project? Or is this going to actually move it along? What do you think, colleagues of mine? So it gives an opportunity for people to not only move from learning to application, but also to have that fit for the environment they're already in. And you get this like little added bonus of now your colleagues are championing you, trying out new behaviors that are going to, increase your success and the company's success. So you have like a little cheerleader squad there. And if it goes bad, guess what? You have someone to come back to and be like, oh my gosh, that blew up in my face. So I guess that wasn't it. What am I going to do now? So I think you get, the application plus the support of your peers and actually making change. Change is hard and it's uncomfortable and you might not be confident in it, but you have a set of peers around you cheering you on. It's going to be a little bit easier.
It's interesting because from what you said, it almost seems like the biggest benefit or value of, call it learning, developing as a group, is not necessarily the topic or the content that you're learning, but it's the sharing of it, the interaction around it, the relationships that help drive, whether it's accountability, application, or integration of those concepts. That actually is the power of having people come together to learn versus the content itself. Is that right?
Absolutely. And I think it's especially appropriate right now. So with people work from home or operating in a more remote way, like you're already doing this all by yourself already. So if you're just doing online learning and it's by yourself, I think it's going to be helpful for you to have a peer group to discuss some of this with and figure out how to apply it. And it has the added benefit of creating that community connection as well.
Well, those are famous last words, Lori. Community and connection. I think that's been the theme that we've seen come up again and again as we've talked about leading forward, whether it's at an organizational level or with your peers or with, your one-on-one with your manager. So we'll leave you all with that. Think about, as you think about learning and how you leverage learning or development to lead your teams forward, really think about how those experiences are creating connection and community, right? Because that may actually be more valuable
even than the content.
Than the topics itself.
Yeah, it just suddenly made me think of like those study groups you had in college. Like you weren't putting any new info in there. Your professor had already put in the info. Yet you created this amazing camaraderie around learning and integrating the material, and in that context, being able to spew it back out on a test. But imagine that same kind of sense of camaraderie in your company as you're learning to make changes, as an employee or as a leader. Like I have people I'm still in touch with, from college that were in study groups with me.
That's amazing. Well, thanks, Lori, so much for your thoughts. And until next time, that is our sound bites for today. See you later, everybody.